many associating hate crime and race and religion, Berkeley from LGBT+ Bristol has joined me in the studio to talk about how hate crime also affects other communities. Now, thank you very much for joining me on Crunch the Week. We had a bit of a discussion earlier on, before we're in the studio now. How important is it that people get the support, one, with recognising that they're actually gay, but number two, the social scene, because it seems to be stemming from quite a young age now, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for example, there are people coming out as transgender whilst they're at school. We're working with younger people all the time. Our particular youth project works with young people aged 13 to 19 that are lesbian, gay, bisexual and trans. So certainly people are coming out younger. I think there's much more awareness in the media. There's a lot more information on social media, and I think LGBT young people are accessing that information, but there's still high levels of self-harm amongst people injuring and cutting themselves. Certainly thinking about suicide, those levels are really high. You're much more likely to be contemplating suicide or attempting suicide if you're LGBT because of the stigma, because of this discrimination that still exists. We grow up in a society that basically tells us if we're black or if we're gay, that in some way we're different, we're wrong, we're bad, we're evil, we're perverted, and those messages, we internalize those messages, and that affects our mental health. Not everybody. Some people will get through life and they'll be very resilient.
And Berkeley, can you give me an example? Because, facts and statistics are one thing, but when you see something come into fruition, like somebody coming out, can you give us an example within the teenage years of you being in a situation and somebody says that they are exactly transgender?
Yeah, absolutely. So just recently I've worked with a couple of cases of young people who actually, sadly, one was a victim of hate crime in a school. The other was actually supported by the school to allow them to be able to come to terms and come out with their gender identity, and that was an amazing experience. And that can happen at all different ages. So, for example, we had somebody in year 9 in a school locally who was looking to, who wanted to transition socially. Obviously they can't do that medically, they can't have surgery or those kind of interventions until they're an adult, but certainly they can, if the school supports them, they can change their name socially, they can change the way they dress, their haircut, for example. So that's a really positive way in which schools can support young people, but it's a challenge, and things like changing your name and having hormones, cross-gender hormones, having surgery, those are the kind of things that you cannot do until you've much later in life, till you've left school. So schools have a duty of care, and one of the most important things is to prevent that actually the kind of hate crime or the discrimination happening in schools. Sadly, there was a report out last week on schools from Stonewall that found really high levels of homophobic, biphobic and transphobic bullying still happening really often. So people hearing negative words, the queer, the dyke, the puff, the faggot, those kind of negative words.
We're going to carry on with this just a bit later on, because I am absolutely captivated by your by your passion to do with this. So coming up later on in the show, I'll be speaking